Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Wednesday, January the 21st. And welcome to our commentary. As we like to do once a week, we'll be chatting with our good friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda. Bill, welcome.
Welcome back,
It's always great
Silvio.
to have you. Are you getting all of these dire weather reports that we're getting
Yes.
down here that this weekend is going to be pretty bad? Are you getting that?
Well, combined with the identity of the new mayor of New
Right.
York,
That's
it's
right.
hard to think that New York has any future. I
Right.
mean, you see the moving vans going. Yes, we had a little bit of snow, and if you know my area, if you get a little bit of snow, it's a major crisis, and and they're ready to call out the guard. So yes, we have had that, but more seriously, the weather is beginning to affect business. It's beginning to affect transportation. One of the words that has become now so popular is the word ice, but when we use it here, it's a whole different matter. Uh,
Right,
they, they,
right.
they,
It,
they're
yeah,
predicting a sheet of ice over the weekend, and that can be dangerous, and especially in an area which depends so much on bridges.
right.
We
And we're getting reports as well down here that this weekend that it's going to start Friday night, and then Saturday and Sunday. There's going to be a lot of precipitation, and the temperatures Saturday and Sunday are not going to go over 32.
Yeah.
So you can guess what that means: ice. And when that happens down here, we shut down as well. The only good news, frankly, if there's ever any good news about a report like this, the only good news is that uh, the heavy stuff is going to be Saturday and Sunday,
Yes.
when most people can at least afford not to drive so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
No schools are out there. You don't have people going to work in the rush hour. By Monday, hopefully it'll melt a little bit. But Saturday and Sunday are supposed to be nasty. So they're already
Yes.
telling people, make sure you've got your supplies, plenty of milk and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, it's
And
the
what I
it's
find interesting though is that you remember a few years ago we had that big snow that and we lost electricity for several days.
yes.
What I find interesting now is that every time we have any threat of either excessive heat or uh, or excessive cold, like we're expecting, the governor, and I have to give him so much credit for this, just like literally takes over, and he's got all of these people from the different power companies, briefing everybody and telling them, no, we got plenty of power, we got plenty of power, we have this power, this alternative. I mean, it's like Governor Abbott, and I've got to give him credit for that, really understands how important it is for the power grid not to fail.
That's right.
And I got to give him credit for being on top of it. I mean, he doesn't take any chances, and I think that's good, Bill.
That is very, very good. He's a good governor.
He
Now
is.
In Minnesota, the governor, when the time all this happens, might well be under arrest. I
That's
mean,
right. And that is such an why don't we begin with that? Because
yes.
well, before I do, I wanted to you mentioned the mayor of New York. What is the latest with Mr. Mandani?
Madonna.
What's the latest with him?
Well, to the extent that there's a latest with him, the press has begun to look at some of the people he's hired, and it's one after the other are these people who have these histories of of militant left wing politics,
Yeah.
and I don't know why he is. It's like committing suicide, but I think that the questions that are being asked is, will he even be mayor in 5 months if he
Hmm.
continues this? We
Yeah.
thought that when that he would come to his senses and come into office with this united view, but he's not capable of it. He is a real hard leftist, and very wealthy besides. And I think he really, I expect him to come out with his own foreign policy. I really do.
Right.
And say, well, I'm talking about this because it affects every New Yorker, especially the poor.
Right.
And as if he's never met poor people.
Right.
Uh,
Kind of
he,
reminds me, Bill, if I may just throw this in, kind of reminds me a little bit of when Arizona came up with their own immigration policy. I wouldn't be surprised if New York City comes up with its own immigration policy.
Oh, absolutely,
It probably has
absolutely.
already,
Well, I think it's going to be the basic immigration policy of the Democratic Party,
right?
with the addition of the fact that the people in power in New York today, while they are Democrats, they never mention it. They
Hmm.
never mentioned the Democratic Party. They, I think, simply used the party to get on the ballot, and now everything is democratic socialism, and the warmth of group upper,
Collectivism.
yes, electivism.
Oh,
So it's just starting now. I mean, he only became mayor, how, 3 weeks ago or so.
yeah.
But no one is expecting anything good to come of this. No one
Well,
that I know. Yeah.
yeah, I was hoping for a little moderation or common sense from him,
Yes.
but I guess that's not going to be the case. It's like, if I could bring up another example, it's like this new governor of Virginia
Oh yes.
who
Yes.
ran. This is supposed to be. They tell us these are moderates. So what is the first thing the new governor of Virginia does? She signs a brand new bill, I guess, making it illegal for the police to work with ICE. She's going to implement all of these. Now they're going to teach history, a version of history, which is justice history, I guess. They're going to talk about
Yes.
every group that has been hurt in the history of civilization. I mean, it's like ridiculous. I mean, how how do these people think? I mean, Virginia, yes, the top part of Virginia is full of government employees, which is
It's
why
New.
she won.
It's New York.
It's New York, yeah, but
Yes.
the rest of Virginia is not.
That's right.
And you have to wonder at what point there's going to be either the southern part of Virginia will transfer to West Virginia.
Yes.
I mean, these things that are happening politically in the country, these political divisions, where you have basically a city. This is what happening in Minnesota too, where you basically have one city or a couple of cities basically running the state. You look at the map of Minnesota. I mean, my gosh, Kamala Harris just won by 5 points,
That's right.
even though she had the governor as the VP,
Yes, that's right.
and yet
Well, he did
they're
her no good.
no, he didn't, and it's like all of a sudden, I mean, they're you listen to the mayor of Minneapolis, you listen to the governor of Minnesota, and you wonder we're talking about if we're talking about Vermont or something. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's just. But there's so much. Let's go with that one because there's two big issues in Minnesota. I actually do think, Bill, that the mayor and the governor should be indicted for interfering with ICE operations. I really do.
Oh, so
I
do I.
I
So
think
do
that
I.
lesson has to be taught. And then the other big story is the fraud. And you have, I mean, somebody has to explain to me how you lose, or how can you have billions of dollars gone like that? Who in the world is looking at the checkbook, Bill?
Well, certainly not the people who should be. I mean, you don't really have in Minnesota a very good public press. I mean, there was at one time uh, Indianapolis had some good newspapers. They basically have folded. You don't
You
have.
mean Minneapolis? You mean not Indianapolis? You mean
I'm
Minneapolis?
sorry,
Yeah, 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 Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Uh,
Right.
uh, the people who should be looking, which is the press, which is the New York, uh, Indianapolis bar, the bar association, they were just looking the other way. And you have an attorney general's office that is filled with far leftists, people whose loyalty is to Louis Farrakhan, and not enough people cared. And this is what happens. And the people who make you care are good reporters, good educators who are not educated in left wing teachers colleges, and a population that cares and believes that, well, it isn't affecting me. They hear the word fraud, it's always somebody else's fraud. So it's easy to place blame. It is very difficult to get rid of problems. Fraud is probably one of the most difficult public problems to get rid of because the people who benefit from it are the people who have power.
Right.
And that power comes from their own political associations, and the fact that they know they will be protected.
Well, that's it. And but I've got to believe when you look at the electoral map of Minnesota that all of those people who live outside of Minneapolis and St. Paul, which apparently that's where all the left wingers are, they're looking at all of this and they're horrified. You know, people forget that Donald Trump. I was looking at these numbers in 2016. Donald Trump came within 1 point of winning Minnesota.
Yes.
And of course, this last time around, he came within 4 or 5 points, despite the governor being on the ticket. So I just get the impression that these people in Minnesota, I'm not going to say they're Republicans, but they're certainly not left-wing Democrats. And just cannot believe that they're sitting there watching all of this saying, gee, what a great moment in
Yes.
Minnesota history, you know?
Yes.
This
I
doesn't
think
add
I
up,
I think the population has been asleep because it's
probably.
easy to put a population to sleep. I mean, they send their kids to schools. They go to the schools. They have PTA meetings, and they think all is fine. Now, there have been in recently in Minnesota some parent groups who have said, "Wait a minute, this isn't fine." And as soon as you say that, you get called a racist,
Right.
and they don't want to be called a racist. And I can understand that. I can understand where you don't want to be part of an organization that is described by the governor as domestic terrorists.
Right.
So you have to have a campaign where you have powerful people behind you, and nobody has done anything in Minnesota. Maybe because they don't feel that they have any power, or they don't feel that it affects them. But of course, fraud affects everybody
It
because
should.
ultimately that is the money that people depend on for public services.
Well, and this is also what I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but what complicates Minnesota's problem is that some of the money is national money.
Yes, that's true.
So it's not like it's a completely, if it was a 100% Minnesota fraud, then you would hope that there are people in there that will do something about it. But a lot of this money apparently was coming from the federal government, intended, for example, for daycare centers
Yes,
and for, I guess, other activities like that.
it came
And
from federal legislation
yes,
that has very specific uses in the legislation. Now
right,
the question is, what do you do about it? Now, if I think that the President Trump is correct in turning the thing over to the Justice Department, but if you watch institutions like CNN, their emphasis is on anything that ICE did that might have been wrong.
right.
What the governor did and what the criminal element did there, they're not that interested in it. I mean, it is incredible watching CNN in certain respects. It's not all bad, but in certain respects, and then watching Fox News, and you would not think they're talking about the same state.
No, you're not. They're not. There's such a. I know. I know. I. That's why I have a hard time watching CNN because while you can argue that Fox News is maybe going to the right, okay, you
Yeah.
can argue that, but CNN, they're just. I mean, this. They're not even. I'm not sure if it's left or where they are, but it's irresponsible, their
Yes. Well.
coverage. I mean, I can argue that maybe Fox News focuses too much on defending ICE. That may be true. I don't know. I'm not an expert on in the media, but what CNN, I mean, the stuff that they put on there
Yes.
is it's I don't know. I guess that's why they don't have any viewers, Bill.
Well, their viewership is very bad, but they put on something I recall last week, while this was going on. They produced eyewitness reports. Well, one of the first things you learn in journalism is never defend on eyewitnesses. That's true in law as well. Eyewitnesses either get things wrong, have an interest in the subject, or are hired to be eyewitnesses, professional eyewitnesses. There are charges, uh, and I suspect that they are true, just based on everything else that is happening, that many of the so called protesters are hired hands of the political left.
They
and
show up in a bus. They show
yes,
up in a bus.
they sure do,
Yeah.
and some of the people I've seen interviewed on, and yes, it is an interview on Fox, say that the real professional agitators are coming in now. They're the ones who are members of Antifa. They're the ones who have national ambitions, and they will try to begin those ambitions anew in Minnesota. I think that the press coverage there's been some studies, quick studies made of the press coverage done by the national television networks, the big three, and they're awful. They really are awful. They do not really tell you the story, and it's obvious they don't want to.
No, they don't. It just doesn't seem to fit the narrative
That's exactly a
as they
good
like
way of
this.
putting it.
Yeah, but I do think this fraud problem, um, it is something pretty bad, and I understand there, as you say, the Department of Justice is involved, and there's also the indictments, I believe, coming against the mayor and the
I
governor
hope.
for refusing to work with ICE. And I don't see how they can avoid that, Bill. I mean, whether you like or dislike ICE, you cannot become a sanctuary city of federal law. And imagine if all of a sudden the city, I don't know, wherever, becomes a sanctuary of the IRS.
Yes,
Imagine that.
yes.
Or
Well,
it
you're
becomes a
right.
sanctuary city of labor legislation, or the EPA. We're
Yes.
not going to play with the EPA anymore in Alabama or whatever.
Well,
Uh,
that's the thing, and unfortunately, we have a president who understands the danger of what the governor and mayor are doing in Minnesota, and he has threatened to act. I would like to see the threat carried out. It would be carried out by the Justice Department, and I think also this incident that occurred in a church
oh gosh.
clearly violated federal law, which is very specific on interrupting people's right to worship. And the governor laughs at that. He said it doesn't apply here. Oh, it applies if the federal government, which means the president, wants it to apply, and it should apply. That's a terrible thing to go into a house of worship, and to suddenly be confronted by people exercising their quote free speech by shouting at you that you're a pig and
Right.
that you're a racist and that you should be thrown out of the state. So let's see. As Trump says, let's see what happens, but he has to make it happen.
Right. Well, I another thing too that I would say to the protesters who walked into the church is, who told them that having associating with Don Lemon was going to be a good marketing program?
Yes,
Because I mean, you talk about, I mean, you talk about blowing your chances.
yes.
That's not a good marketing. And the other thing, and I mentioned this the other day, Bill, I think it was to you, and that is that if you want to win hearts and minds, and the climate change people have the same problem. If you want to win hearts and minds, you don't block traffic, you don't block bridges, you don't get in people's faces who are out to dinner, and you definitely don't walk into a museum and destroy art. And for sure, you don't walk into a church. I mean, it seems to me that these are the things you don't do if your
Right. And they
objective is to win public opinion, Bill.
That's right, and they do it. And unfortunately, the very people who should be exposing them, the people in the press, are often with them. And with the exception of Fox and maybe a few others, but I mean, there were some statistics put out last week about Minnesota and what's left of the Minnesota press and what is actually happening in the state. And you would never know any of that by watching the big three.
Hmm. Well, somebody put out a report that like 93% of the coverage of ICE was negative,
Yes,
and that's obscene.
of course it
Uh,
is.
I mean, that's not. But on the other hand, Bill, they don't have the audiences that they used to have either. So you wonder. I sometimes wonder if maybe some of these networks have just said, the people watching us are more liberal, so let's just give them what they want. Sort of what
Yeah,
what MSNBC did for a long time. With everybody watching us hates Trump, so let's just do Trump hate 24/7.
yeah, and
I
that's
don't know.
exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And now they what they're going to do, and well, they're already doing it, is to say that Trump is a threat to national security.
Oh yes,
And he we can have World War III because of him. And he's in Davos, and look at the attitude toward him there by the European nations. Now, I fully agree. The European nations have used us for years and unfairly. And I mean, the fact that the governor of Canada could make the comment he made and not be reprimanded by the press, it just amazes me.
you mean the Prime Minister Carney? I think it
I mean,
is.
prime.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
Prime Minister.
I said
Yeah,
governor.
governor. Yeah,
The
although
prime. The
I
prime
thought
minister.
because
Yeah,
there's
and he.
also a premier. I guess that's their governor. There's a premier of Ontario who keeps putting his foot in his mouth all the
Yes.
time. Doug Ford, I think it is. He doesn't have a lot of tact. Doesn't make a lot of sense either. But Canada in particular, I mean, if there's a country, I guess what's going on in Canada, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but what's going on is that the prime minister said they wanted to get closer to China for
Yes.
trade.
Oh, yes. They. It's a completely different Canada than the one we think we knew.
Right,
Although people familiar with Canada, and I've had some dealings with Canadians in the past, there is a very large left wing element in Canada. They have never done what they should have done in terms of their national defense. We basically are guaranteeing Canada,
right, right,
because if the Russians were to, if there was to be a war, an international war, where the Russians threatened Alaska, it would be the United States that saved Alaska, not Canada.
right. Or the north of Canada for sure.
Oh yes,
I mean, or the coastlines. That's a country with tremendous coastlines,
yes,
and
and it's
yet their navy, I guess at one time it was pretty powerful, but now, I mean, I
at the end
wouldn't.
of World War II, they had one of the strongest navies in the
Yes,
world,
that's
way
right.
above their population, and people admired it. But now, I mean, it's pathetic, and they depend on the United States Navy.
That's right. No, you're right. You're right about that. And you would think that they would understand the risk of getting involved with China because this Prime Minister Carney, from what I understand, he doesn't want to build this pipeline that goes from Alberta to Vancouver.
That's right.
But if he gets involved with the Chinese are going to force him to do it because that's the only interest that China has in Canada is that oil in Alberta.
Yes.
I mean, they could care less about the rest of the country. It's that oil in Alberta, but the only way they can get to that oil is by having a pipeline to Vancouver. And this prime minister and all the climate change people up there don't want to build it.
Yes,
But
they
what
believe that that pipeline is going to end the world,
that's it. That if you
because
build that pipeline, that every animal between Alberta and Vancouver, I guess, is going to die or something.
they learned this at dinner, probably with the governor of California at the
Right,
same restaurant where the governor of California was embarrassed a year ago because it was such a high priced restaurant.
right.
But he has absolutely no tact of the governor of Canada. But this has been a problem in Canada before. They uh, they have an element that is that wants Canada independent of the United States, but yet likes the protections. Now,
Right.
you remember some years ago the Prime Minister of Canada. Now, why do I forget his name? But
Trudeau.
Trudeau, yes, the Trudeau,
That was
and
the
he
father, right? The father,
that
right?
there was the father, yes,
Yeah.
and he was very, very anti-American. I mean, during the Vietnam War, he is the one who set up sanctuaries for American soldiers who wanted
Right.
to defect.
Yes, I remember, and I guess the bad news about him is that he gave us his son,
Yes,
and the son may have turned out to be even worse
well,
by
yes,
what
I
I
think
hear.
the son is completely ineffectual. I think even his own supporters have given
Right.
up on him,
Yeah, well,
and
he's already gone. Of course, I think he resigned a year ago. But the father was Pierre, and the son is Justin. That's how I.
Justin
Yeah,
Trudeau,
that's
and
how
even
I.
though he has resigned, he still has influence over the government
Sure.
because his party has influence over the government. But I mean, he had to resign because he was in such an embarrassing situation. But they still have their quote people,
Hmm.
and as we learned in this country, when a new administration takes power, they begin to appoint people to the permanent government,
Right.
what we would call
Bureaucracy.
the bureaucracy or the permanent state, and that lasts a long time. It really
It sure
does.
does.
If
It
you
sure does.
look in Washington, you see that effect.
Now, President Trump is in Davos, and we know about his personality or the way he talks, and sometimes that is just Trump. I personally have gotten over that. It doesn't bother me that much anymore. I'm more interested in what he's doing than how he comes across. I mean, Trump is Trump, and you got to get used to it. But I think he's 100% right about Greenland in the sense that it's a vital piece of territory that we have to have, because I think one of two things is going to happen, Bill, in 20 or 25 years. There's going to be a Chinese submarine base, or there's going to be an American submarine base.
Yes.
And I frankly would rather have an American submarine base there.
Yes, so
I
would
mean,
I.
that's to me is as practical as that. It's not a question of being anti-European or whatever. It's simply a question of, I think the world is better off when American submarines are, you know, running in strategic places, not Chinese. So that's just my sense of reality, Bill.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And if you ask, I hope that people at home, President Roosevelt, when he was in office, we didn't have television, we had
Hmm.
radio, but he would say to people in his radio addresses, go to a store and buy a map. And when I make a speech, follow me on the map, and you will understand much better what we're doing. And
Yes.
the next day, there was a big map store in New York, was down near Grand Central Station. They were completely sold out.
Well, that
People
is such a smart thing, though, that Roosevelt did, because World War II was a lot about maps and countries
Oh,
Americans had
sure.
not heard of.
That's exactly right. And he was able to, in effect, teach the American people. I think it was Doris Kearns Goodwin who made the point that you could walk down a street when the president was giving a speech, and you would not be interrupted by anything else because you would hear the radios from the people at home listening to the president. Uh, are we on?
Oops. Yeah. Well, I heard Bill. Yeah, we're on. We're on. I think I lost you there for a second, but we're on.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you
Yes.
hear me, Bill? Okay. Yeah, I think
Yes.
we're on. Yeah, we're on. I just lost you for a second, but what I was going to add, you were talking about people in the country listening to the FDR on the radio,
Yes.
and I was going to, when you mentioned that Doris Goodwin came up with, was the one who said that, reminded me about something else she said. Now, this time she was talking about Brooklyn and your old favorite baseball team.
Oh,
She
yes.
said that when you walk down the streets in Brooklyn, that they were listening to the games too.
Yes,
The
absolutely. You can hear it a whole
people,
game just by walking
that's
down the
right.
street.
Walk down the street and they're on the radios, in the balconies. There was somebody listening to the radio or whatever. So I guess it wasn't. Yeah, they did it with the Dodgers too, and those were, of course, the days when baseball dominated radio.
Oh,
Or
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And, that was the radio era. And we went through World War II without one television set
that's
in the
it.
country. If
That's
you
it.
wanted to see something, you had to go to the movies
Right.
and they would run a newsreel, which you could, movie tone news, it was called. And people could see, if they wanted to see it, some events from the war. But the people who dominate tend to be the people who understand the medium they're working in. And
Hmm.
Roosevelt had a terrific understanding of how radio worked.
Just like Reagan did with TV. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Well,
and
Reagan was called the great communicator.
that's right. That's right. And I guess Trump has the same ability with social media, from what I can see. He
Yes.
knows, with, I guess, when he writes his own messages or whatever they call it, social, whatever his distribution is, he reaches millions of people. And one time, this is when he was doing it on Twitter. Somebody asked why does he do that? And somebody said, well, because he makes his point. He puts his whatever he wants to say, he can say it to like 40 million people at one time before the media gets to it.
That's
So
right.
he gets to make his case before the media edits it,
Yeah,
and that's a very powerful
and he has threatened
reach.
the media, especially CBS, with lawsuits if they edit something in a corrupt manner. Can you hear me?
Well, I don't know if he can actually do that, Bill. Yeah, I can hear you great. Yeah,
Oh,
can
okay.
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes. Hello.
Oops, what did can you, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I'm here. I'm here. We're on. I think it
Yes.
was you that we lost there for a second.
You. You're. Yeah. It's going. It's going in and out.
But I'm okay. I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody was to welcome us to. Got mail. I didn't know that it.
No,
All right. Goodbye.
we're
Not you,
getting
Bill. I have no idea
we're,
what's coming in.
we're getting some fade outs, which may
I
have
don't
to
know what it
do.
is. All of a sudden, we had it. We had a. Yeah, we had it, an attack.
Yes. Well, that people. We have had some
Yeah,
brownouts here, and we
we
have
got
had
an
some.
attack of some. Yeah, we're
Is your
could be
sound going
some
in?
maybe.
Is your sound going in and out?
No, I'm right here. I can hear
All
you
right.
fine. How
Okay.
about you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you too.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, there was like a sneak attack or something on.
Well, we had over the weekend. I know that one of the patient portals in one of the hospitals here seemed to be under attack because if you tried to use the patient portal, a card came up saying, "We think this is a fraud.
Hmm,
You should not use it. Turn off your patient portal and don't use it again if you see this message." And clearly, somebody was being hacked, and it wasn't me because
right.
everything else worked. But there's a lot of hacking going on, and I think there are a lot of things going on in terms of media and in terms of the use of the power grid, which would be the way they would get to us is through the power grid. And it's very frightening the fact that we could have a national emergency and it
Right.
is possible that we would lose our source of information.
That's right. And I have no idea what happened. I
Yes.
was always on during all that time. So unfortunately, you were the target. I'm not
Yeah.
saying on purpose, but you were the target. But anyway, I when with President Trump in Greenland, I mean, I think people can dislike how he talks, but I like the message.
That's the point, and I think
Yeah,
if people can get beyond the way he talks, but
right,
unfortunately, sometimes even when he's making sense and presenting a good idea, he starts again talking about past presidents, about people who don't like him, even bringing up the fact that he wasn't given the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean,
right.
you just wince at that kind of thing. It is so unpresidential, and I really do think somebody should sit down with him and saying you're losing support because of this.
Yeah, and
And
it's unnecessary. Also, I mean,
yes,
it doesn't help them. I mean, it's like, and that's what frustrates me. I agree with you that, for example, this thing he said about whatever the country is didn't give him the Nobel Peace Prize. Look, I
Norway,
agree. I know. I
Norway,
mean, look, Norway has had a very bad record here recently with the Nobel Peace Prize. I
that's
mean, when
right.
they gave it to Obama, a lot of us were wondering for what.
What did
Okay,
what did he do? They
what
gave
did
it
he
to
do?
Obama before he took office, I think, or in the first few
Well,
days of his office.
in the first year of his presidency, and even Obama couldn't explain why he got it. He was like saying, "Oh, I didn't know that I had earned this."
You know what?
Uh,
If the press was good, and there are a few outlets that do this, they will explain how the Nobel Peace Prize is given, because in their heads they have a picture of a very serious panel of people meeting in a neutral atmosphere and giving out this profound prize. In fact, it's the only Nobel Prize which is not given in Sweden. It's given by Norway. How it got started is a long story, but Norway is not a country that is particularly friendly to the United States. I mean, they may like Americans as Americans, and they may appreciate some of the things we do, but the Nobel Peace Prize is given by people in the Norwegian government who tend to be on the political left, and they mess it up pretty much every year.
Well, that's it. I mean,
Yes.
that President Obama would get one in his first year before, and then ironically, Obama ends up fighting in Afghanistan,
Yes.
and he ends up dropping all these bombs
All over the place.
in Iraq. I mean, in a sense, you could argue his wars were even more intense than those of President Bush,
I think that's
and yet
true.
he did win that. But well, it's also Bill. Yeah, it's also the first year, almost to the day, of the second term of President Trump, or the first year of the second term. And there's a lot of they're doing all these shows right now about giving him a grade and all of that. And I personally think he should get a B minus. Now, a B minus is a pretty good grade if that's what you get in school, but it's not a B plus or an A minus. I still think he has the potential for being for getting an A minus even more.
Oh, he has the
But right
potential.
now, there's
Yep.
but my point, Bill, is that so much of what he has done is still up in the air,
That's the point.
and
You
and
make
I,
it
and we don't
exactly
know how
right.
it's going to come down. It could come down real well, or may not.
Well,
That's my
you're absolutely correct. I mean, he does all these predictions, and don't make predictions that say this is our goal or whatever. But he's saying now that next year the American people are going to get the biggest check from the federal government that they ever received. Well, don't tell me that. Send me the check. As you said, it's these half achieved things where he makes it. Now, today he talked about Hamas and said if Hamas does not start cooperating with us, there will be no more Hamas. Well, once you say it, you got to do it, or at least do something close. And he's forgetting that, and he makes these predictions. And as you said, it's a half deal.
right. And politically, that's always risky when you're making a prediction like that. So by summer, I personally, this is my opinion. I think by summer the economy is going to be doing pretty well,
I hope so.
and I think you'll get a good grade on the economy. But these midterm elections is what we're talking about. These midterm elections are district by district,
Yes.
and that's why all these national numbers, I've always felt that don't really tell you anything, because of the 435 districts, the incumbent is going to win, or the incumbent party is going to win 90% of them.
Yeah.
So really, you come down to like maybe 20 districts, 25 districts that are competitive, and those are the places he's going to have to campaign and try to win. He's also, Bill, I think, very fortunate that the opposition is the Democrat Party.
Oh yes. Well, if you look at the numbers for the Democratic Party alone in the public opinion polls, they're literally off the map. I mean,
Yes.
they are so disliked as a political party. So when you see these numbers that say that, well, I'm Trump, I'm kind of losing my interest in him. But then when you see a poll of the Democratic Party and people will run on the Democratic line, it's devastating. I mean, they put the Democratic Party against Trump in a poll. Are you more pleased with, or do you feel who will do the better job, the Democratic Party or President Trump? It always comes out to President Trump when it's put
Well,
party against
that's what Wall Street Journal ran this poll
exactly.
that has him at 45%, which is not a bad
Which
number,
not
really.
not not a bad number at
Not a
all
bad number.
for.
He's very much within reach. But then when they ask people, who do you trust more on the economy, on this and this, and all the major issues, they trust Republicans. Not by huge margins,
That's right.
but they still trust him more. And so I think they have a lot of work to do at the White House, and I'm sure they're on it. I'm pretty sure they understand how critical this midterm election is. But I can tell you here, late January, I would not be surprised if he defies, the whatever it is, history, and keeps a small majority in the House. Because when you look at the Democrats, my goodness, what a bunch of I
Crazies.
mean, yeah. I mean, what are they going to be running? It's just not a good group. I'll put it that way.
No, the candidates themselves are generally very weak because they have to kowtow to the squad and to all the crackpots who run the party, and it is run by crackpots, and everything. I mean, everything is race, 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 race. That's the 1960s are over,
Right.
and they have to get used to that fact that they have got to run as a party of all the people, and their candidates must be truly reasonable. Now, you mentioned Virginia before, and we're learning that in Virginia, the candidate who is presented to us as this moderate
Moderate.
Democrat is
Right.
really not moderate at all. She's in probably by force. She's in with the extremists in her party, and she seems to feel she has to represent them first. Well, that may not work out too well during the next election.
Well, one thing the Democrats are also getting associated with, and I think it's going to hurt them, is high energy prices.
Yes,
Because if you look at their policies, I mean, this focus on green energy and stuff like that, that that didn't play well in New Jersey. I mean, I was actually kind of surprised that lady in New Jersey won as big as she did.
yes, everyone was
I
surprised.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. I thought it would be a much more competitive election, but the Democrats do something very well, and that is that they're getting people to vote 90 days before the election.
That's right.
So that's another thing that has to change.
That is exactly right. They know how to get out the pre-election vote, and
Yes.
they have a real organization for it. And as a result, they don't. Not that many of them have to vote on election day.
No,
They
actually,
have already voted, and the Republicans have got to learn how to use that system and use it well.
that's right.
And
No, you're exactly right about that. They got to play by the rules, as they say. It's like when you're driving in heavy traffic, you got to go along with the traffic. You can't, you cannot be doing 55 when everybody's doing 70, because they're going
yes,
to run
off
you
the
off the
road.
street. Yeah. Well, Bill, I want to wish you well this weekend. As I say, excuse me, we have, I believe, some bad predictions do coming.
Yes.
So we always panic when when we have these bad predictions about the weather, but apparently it's
Well,
coming.
yes. Well, the FR80 people are doing very well, and Energizer, they're doing well. But those are the predictions. As a general rule, we've joked about this before. The predictions for bad weather aren't as severe, are as the weather itself is not as severe as the
Right.
predictions. So I guess we'll have to count for that to work again.
Yeah, that's right. And maybe nothing will happen here, but everybody's telling me that it's for sure this time we're really getting it. So maybe this is like, the big stories about the earthquakes coming. The big
Yes,
earthquake is coming, and
yes, of
sometimes
course,
they do come.
of course.
But like you say, you do sell a lot of batteries.
You do,
So
yes.
I took your advice, and I have a lot of batteries.
Well, yes, and people are told to stock up on food, and then when they go to the
Yeah,
food store, it's all they've run out of food.
right.
So yes, there is a panic factor involved there, and
Fill
so
your car. Make sure your car is full.
well, yeah, yeah,
Gasoline. Yeah, yeah.
fill
That's
your car up and make sure the battery is operating,
right.
and don't park your car in places where you can't get to it.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. See, we do not control the weather.
No, we don't.
We,
And but
the
we'll talk
government
about it.
the
Yeah,
government of Norway controls the weather.
that's right. They have it up there. They know what to do up there. They've got it all figured out. But Bill, as always, thank you for your time, and hopefully we're not comparing a lot of bad weather stories the next time. But
I hope so.
have a great rest of the week. Give my best to Mr. Mandani if you see him.
I will.
Uh,
I
Tell
will.
him
Yes.
that we're thinking about him, and that we're kind of disappointed with his choices, but maybe maybe he'll change.
We hope so. We hope
Yeah.
so. Uh,
Yes. So have a great week, Bill. Thank you for your time.
same to you, Silvio, and I look forward to seeing you or not or hearing you the next time. And I think have plenty of news by next week.
Yes, yes. There may be another there may be a deal with Greenland from what I heard before
And
we started.
Iran is always the main story.
That's it. And
Yes.
so next week we'll get into those too. Thank you
Okay.
very much for your time, Bill.
My pleasure, Silvio. Talk to you
Oh,
next week.
talk to you next week. Our good friend Bill Katz, the editor of Urgent Agenda. We call this the Weekend Review, and that's what we like to do with Bill, is chat about the events of the week. But yes, President Trump in Greenland, uh, as always, being Trump, and that usually means saying a lot of things that some people like, other people don't like. I like the message, although I wish sometimes he would maybe say it differently. But I like the message that he's delivering to our allies that, hey, you guys need to put up more money to defend yourselves. And you should at least say thank you to us once in a while for the fact that we've been defending you for a very long time at a very heavy price. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.